G'day guys, it's Adam from VideoShowMeHow, and in this video it's all about winches. We are continuing the DMAX build. If you haven't checked out that playlist yet, head on over and check it out. Consider subscribing if you haven't already, because there are stacks more DMAX mods to come. But in today's video, it's a bit of a two-parter. We're going to run through the new Ultra Winch, the PDX series Mark II. We're going to pull this thing apart, see what you get, and I'll run through why I went with one of these for the DMAX. And then in the second part, we'll run through a how-to guide on how to get the winch installed into the front of your four-wheel drive. But enough jibber jabber, let's get cracking on opening up the Ultra Winch, pulling everything out and seeing what we get. We get a hand controller, an in-cab controller, our wireless remote, battery cabling, our hardware kit with nylock nuts, great to see, chunky looking hook. Oh, have a go at that, that looks awesome. And then get some miscellaneous bits. We have our isolator, our brackets, winch strap, and some battery terminal covers, winch breather kit, more on this later, and the updated multi-position Fairlead, and then of course, the winch itself. So here we are, here is everything that you get with the kit. You get a number of different control methods, from a really heavy duty rubberized in and out that is a wired version, to an in-car switch. This is part of the Mark II. If you want to run a permanent in-car in and out, you can do via this guy here. This guy though, I reckon is one of the highlights for me, and this is a full wireless remote, but with a difference. It's not one of those wireless remotes where you need to go in here and you need to plug in a separate little dongle to make this thing work or any of that jazz. As soon as you turn this guy on, you're live, you're ready to go. Isolator switch, that's also really important. Have a look at this hook, how awesome is that? Hardware, that sort of jazz, brackets included. This is pretty cool. This is a breather kit, the same as what you'd find on your diffs, on your gearbox, on your transfer case. And if you know anything about winches, you'll know that one of the #1 killer of these guys is water ingress. Over the years, I've had a bunch of different winches on a bunch of different four-wheel drives, and almost all of them have got some sort of water in either the motor side of things or the gearbox. And that ain't great. When water gets in here, it starts to corrode, it starts to mess with any of the grease, which then impacts heat generation and all of that sort of deal, to the point where when you go to use this, when you need it most, think you're either supporting someone else or you're needing to get yourself out of trouble, the thing doesn't work. So water ingress is one of the #1 things that I look at when selecting a winch, and when I was researching this one, this was one of the #1 things that stood out to me. We also get the upgraded Fairlead, the full alloy unit, and the upside with these guys, you can do those ones. It's a double-sider, so depending on what type of Bullbar you have, this is going to work regardless. So overall, I reckon that is pretty cool. We've got everything laid out, ready to go. Our next step is to get this guy installed into there. So step #1 of the install is setting this guy up so that it's ready to be installed in the first place. And what I mean by that, you want to get this ready for your own application. This, like we looked at before, can go on top or remote mount. I'm going to try and fit it up the top here. I think the DMAX is going to have enough space underneath there to be able to get the control box sitting on top, but you can remote mount that somewhere else. And the other part is the gearbox itself and which way it's oriented. Now the good news with the Ultra Winch is this whole section is easily rotatable. We're going to do that. We're going to rotate it so the handle is facing the front here. Now it's a super easy job to do. All you need to do is grab one of the 4mm Allen keys, and then it's just a matter of cracking all 4 of these bolts. There's one in each corner. And just be super careful when you do pull this out, just pull it out super gently. There is a center pin in here as well that you don't want to pull out. So get your hand in there and keep that all nice and secure in place. You can see around here, this is our waterproof gasket, so that's awesome to see. Well packed with grease and looks like some pretty good quality gear set in there as well. For us, it's just a matter of turning this around just like that so that we're ready to go on the front end here. And then we want to very gently pop it back into place. Just give it a bit of a wiggle as you go in. Once you're at that point, support the end here so that you're not going to be damaging the seals. And then the same as what we did the other way around is just put these back into place and tighten everything back up. And then from here, the next step is getting that guy installed onto our winch cradle that sits behind our Bullbar. So unfortunately for me, the whole bar has to come off, but not too difficult. There's just 3 bolts on either side. If you do want more information on how to install or remove a Bullbar for that matter on your DMAX, just check out the Bullbar install video on the channel. Now a bit of a top tip before you go plonking this guy down is to pre-install your nuts. Now all winches that I know of, or certainly the ones I've had in the past, all have square nuts. Imagine that, square nuts, the edges, the corners. Yeah. The upside of having them on a winch though is the fact that you can see down in there, you've got a square hole. So square nut, square hole means no spanner needed. And that makes life a whole lot easier when you're installing this and torquing it down to the plate. So from your bag of bolts, grab the little square nuts that exist there. And then what you want to do is just pop them into place just like that, one on each corner, and then gently place that into position on top of our winch plate. And there we go, sitting in place, looking the business too, mind you. Black is matching the black and blue theme of the DMAX, love it. And this is where you want to jump underneath, use each of your 8.8 bolts that go with your square nuts. You want to go underneath and tighten these down tight. I've also chosen to mount the slimline control box on the top. At this point, if you're deciding, no, I don't want to put it there, I want to put it somewhere else, in the bar, maybe off to the side on a flat section or what have you, now's the time to get that ready to do exactly that. And there we go, all bolted down. It is as sturdy as you like. The next step for us is to start planning out and routing our wiring. Out of the control box, you'll have a bundle of wires. Now the short lot, you'll have 3 beef wires and then a little skinny black one. They're connected to the actual winch itself. The big long red one, surprise, surprise, needs to get snaked through up to your battery. These top 3 need to go around the other side to our connectors here. And that looks a little bit like this. You really want to make sure when you're routing everything around the back here, you're not kinking any of these cables. These things are going to be carrying up to 500 amps. And they're connecting these guys up to the terminals themselves. Couldn't get any easier. Everything is color coded, yellow to yellow at the back pin there, red in the middle and black at the front. And the little black skinny wire, the earth for our control box, that goes to our negative point at the back of the winch, this guy right here, that pin, the same as our main negative that will run through here up to the battery. And then tighten down with your 13mm. And then once all tightened down, you want to grab the rubber sheath and you want to squish it over the top of the pointy bit so that it's nice and protected. Now, once you're at this point, you've got your control box wired into the winch motor. It's nice and earthed there as well. We need to start connecting this guy up to our battery. And then where there is a positive, there's a negative. So head over to your parts box. We want to grab these 2 bits of cable and bring it over because we want to attach our negative to the back of the winch motor, same place that we earthed out our control box, just in the little tab there, just that pin. So we want to attach this guy to that and then run it along with our positive cable up through to our battery. So our next step is to final wire everything together. We've got our positive and negative straps here at the battery ready to go. What we need to do now is install our isolator switch. And that's what this kit here is from Ultra Winch. It's awesome to see that they include this. They even include the bracketry and everything you're going to need to put this together. It should look a little bit like that. And from there, we need to bring it over to our engine bay and work out where this guy is going to sit so that it's nice and easily accessible when we need it. And this part is going to very much depend on what sort of setup that you're running. Now we've got our pre-filter here that is installed. Check out the install video there if you're interested. This would actually be a pretty good spot. You've got some existing points here and here that this could bolt to fairly easily. That would be a pretty good spot because it would sit there, something like that. Easy for you to just turn on when you're hitting the trails so that the winch is active. Now Ultra Winch do supply some self-tappers, so depending on how you feel about those, you can go ahead and use them. For me though, I'm going to be installing it up the top here. This is our 12 volt plate. There'll be a video on this when it's out, so check it out if it's out by the time you're watching this. Basically, I'm going to be getting this guy and it's going to live over to the side here on the side of our 12 volt plate. And then once your isolator is in place up the top or wherever you're going to be putting it down here, for example, you want to connect up one side to our positive feed of our winch, grab our sheath section, and then this guy connects to the other, and then have it run down so it's ready to connect to our positive feed. So here we go, wiring all done. I've got our isolator switch in place up the top here as part of the 12 volt plate that I've got going on there. So that's awesome and nice and solid. And when it comes to attaching to the battery itself, we want to go as close as possible to the terminals themselves. We need that for maximum power of the winch. So don't be tempted to go off one of these shunts. We want to go off this guy here and this one here. Now our next step is to finally install the last bit on our bar, and that is our Fairlead here. So you want to grab that, grab the couple of bolts that go with, and then down on the front of our Bullbar, grab our Fairlead. In our case, it needs to be around that way. So that looks awesome actually. Then you want to get these guys here, your Nylocked hardware. We want to pop those into position and snug everything down. So once that's on, we have one more thing to do, and that is to install our breather kit. And how these work is we have our bracket here where the big hole is. That's where we want to thread our top breather component in. And then this component here screws onto the end, and that's where our hose can be pushed into the blue section of this. So like I said before, I'm not a massive fan of drilling holes for things when I don't have to. So down the side of the DMAX, you got a couple of earthing points there and there, but even better, right there, we have a threaded insert. There's something there ready to go. I've just grabbed a 5.5mm bolt. This is one from the DMAX from some of the stuff we've taken off. So this little guy is gonna go perfectly in there, just like that, and it's gonna screw into the factory position. So what I'm gonna do is we just need to now disassemble this part so we can screw the bracket in and then final mount our breather. And there we go, breather all in place, nice and sturdy, nice and factory looking. And then same as we did on the other end, we want to get our end, we want to find our little breather hose end, and we just want to push that down into place. From here, we're looking good, we're looking good. Our next step is grab your friend or manhandle it yourself, get that bar back onto there. So from here, we've got one step remaining before we give this a proper test, and that's to put our hook on. So to get this style of heavy duty safety hook installed, it is pretty straightforward. We want to go through our solid mount on the end of the winch rope. This will sit in there just like that, so that we're creating this gap here in the middle. Then you have your pin, and then the second component is this bushing. This is actually a double round spring, and you'll notice it's not quite as big as the end of the pin because we need to press fit this on. So how to do this, get everything all lined up so that the pin is going through just like this. Get your bushing so that it is in the right spot. And then once it's perfectly aligned, you want to get this bottom section, put it on something hard, and you can give it a couple of good taps on this end and it will push it straight through. You can see the difference here as well. This part here is slightly fatter and this part's skinnier. So that's what we're aiming to do, is get the skinny part through to the middle here. That's where this will lock into place, and then that way the pin won't be able to fall out and will be nice and secure. And there we go, all pushed through, little bushing here in the middle, all in place, perfect. And then from here we can wind this guy back into place. We can set it off to the side here, just like that in our little hook here. And then in she goes via the remote. So it's nice and tight and in place, just like that. And there we go, that part is all done. Got our little sheath here protecting our cable. That is looking awesome. We can put our plate back down just like that. So that's all ready to go. And on to our final two steps. We need to put our top plate in the top there so the car is ready to go. And then our final step is we need to pre-tension our rope. Now I'm going to do that at a local forest. It's going to take me about half an hour to get there, but for you, it's going to be in 3, 2, 1. And here we go. So this is the final step that you need to do before you're ready to use your new winch. And what we're doing here is tensioning the rope that is spooled onto the drum. So if you don't do this process and then you go and use the winch rope and it's under tension, that's where you find all of a sudden it'll tighten up and you could get binding on your drum. So all we need to do here is pull all of the winch rope out. We're going to go over to that tree way over yonder. We need to set up a dead pull of the car. You need to get about 200, 250 kilograms of load onto the rope. The easiest way I've found to do this in the past is just to have a friend, a helper, have your car in neutral and just sort of dead pull it on a flat surface. And that generally is going to get you up to that couple of 100 kilos. So we want to put a winch into free spool mode, just like that. And then we should be able to start pulling our rope out nice and easily. It may be a little bit tight, but just keep yanking on it and it'll come out no problem at all. And we want to keep pulling all of our winch rope out until there's only 5 layers left, so 5 runs on the drum itself. So you want to keep pulling your winch rope out until you get down to about the last 5 layers left wrapped on the drum. For the Ultra winch, you've got that extra layer of protection that sits over the drum at the last part of the rope, which is awesome to see. So you want to keep pulling out till you get to about there. So top tip, anytime you are going around a tree, we want to use that tree trunk strap as well. And then it's a simple matter of just joining these guys together. Shackle on our end here, hook onto our shackle, and we're good to go. Keep an eye out on the channel as well, because we are going to have some full proper how-to on recoveries as well. They'll be coming out on a video near you soon. Definitely recommend grabbing some gloves. You want to engage your winch so you're ready to go. grab your handy dandy remote and then start winching in. Safety first here, guys. There isn't a lot of load here on the rope when you've got that attention. You're literally just dead pulling the weight of the car, so you're only looking at that couple 100 kilos. And as your winch rope's going in, you can just gently sort of guide it just slowly across like that, and it will wrap in really nicely on the drum. And there we go, it's as simple as that. We've got everything rebound back on. Everything's nice and flush here, so we're not going to get any sort of binding. So from here, we've just got to finish up. But once all that's wound in, you're all set, you're good to go. You're ready to recover the DMAX back to the garage. And there you have it, guys. That is the overview and the install of the ULTRAWINCH PDX MK2. I hope you found that helpful, guys, and seriously, this is one of the ones that you can totally do yourself in your garage, on your driveway, at home. Now keep an eye out on the channel and subscribe if you haven't already and you're interested, because we're going to be doing a couple of follow-up vids using the ULTRAWINCH. We're going to be doing one which is more of a care guide, a bit of a how-to on how to look after your winch, the couple of things you need to do on a semi-regular basis so that the thing is in peak operating order when you need to use it. And the second one is going to be about using the thing in the field. So we're going to be getting the thing on the beach, doing a few recoveries there and a few how-tos, and then same thing in the bush, how to use this thing and a few different tips and tricks using the ULTRAWINCH. So I'm really looking forward to getting those videos out to you. Let me know in the comments down below if there's anything in particular you want to see in either of those two. Big shout out to ULTRAWINCH for coming up with this great piece of kit and also supporting this video. Of course, a huge thank you to the patrons of Video Show Me How via Patreon. The extra little bit of support you give really does go a long way in helping me bring out this sort of content for all of you guys. Check out the full playlist for this guy right here. It's coming along nicely. And of course, as always, guys, I hope that you have an amazing day, and I will see you in the next video. Cheers, guys.